The colony market was busy that evening, filled with noise, lights, and the smell of roasted food. Humans and aliens traded side by side, shouting prices, laughing, and sometimes arguing. Among the crowd walked Daniel, a young man with a relaxed smile and curious eyes. He liked to visit the market not only for food but also for the strange stories and faces he always found there. That was when he saw her, a little alien girl sitting alone near a crate of fruit. She looked no older than 8 or 9 in human years. Her skin had a soft silver glow and her big eyes shimmered like tiny stars, but her clothes were worn and her hands clutched at her knees as if she did not belong there. Daniel walked closer. She flinched at first, as if expecting someone to chase her away. He crouched down and offered her a smile. "Hey, you look like you've lost your way," he said gently. The girl blinked at him. "I am not lost. I am waiting," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost musical. "Waiting for who?" Daniel asked, but she only shrugged. He could see her small stomach growling. She hadn't eaten in some time. Daniel pulled an apple from his bag and handed it to her. She hesitated, then took it carefully, biting into it like it was the best thing she had ever tasted. Watching her eat, Daniel chuckled. "You know you're too little to sit out here alone." She looked up at him with those glowing eyes. "I am not little. I will grow fast. One day I will be strong." Her words made him laugh, and without thinking he said, "All right then, when you grow up, I'll marry you." The girl froze, her eyes widening. The words sank into her as if they were heavy. Daniel had meant it, as a joke, something light to make her smile. But she stared at him as if he had given her the most serious promise in the world. "Do you mean it?" she whispered, almost afraid of the answer. Daniel scratched his head, suddenly nervous. "Well, sure, why not? If you grow up into a strong lady, maybe I'll keep my word." He smiled again, not realizing how deeply she took those words. She held the apple close to her chest. "Then I will come back, I will grow, and I will find you." Her voice trembled, but her eyes shone with a strange determination. Daniel laughed again, thinking it was just a child's imagination. He patted her head and stood up. "All right, little star girl, I'll be waiting." He waved and walked away, not noticing that she kept watching him until he disappeared into the crowd. That night, Daniel thought about her for a moment before sleep. He wondered who she was, where her family might be, and why she seemed so alone. But soon he dismissed it. Life in the colony was always filled with strange meetings. He never thought she would remember. He never thought it would matter. Days passed, and Daniel did not see her again. At first, he looked around the market, half expecting her to appear near the crates again, but she never did. When he asked some traders about her, they only shook their heads. Nobody knew of a silver-skinned child with starry eyes. It was as if she had vanished. Still, her memory stayed with him. The way she had clutched that apple, the way she had asked if he meant his words. It was strange, how something so small kept coming back to him when he was alone. Sometimes he would laugh to himself, whispering, "Marry an alien girl? What was I thinking?" But deep down, a part of him wondered years later. Daniel would come to realize that this simple, careless joke was not forgotten, for the little alien girl had carried those words like a treasure, a promise that guided her, a vow that would one day bring her back into his life. But on that first night, Daniel had no idea. To him, it was just a funny moment in the market. To her, it was everything. The joke had changed everything, and the universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the day when the girl would return. The seasons changed in the colony. Years rolled forward, carrying Daniel along with them. The market grew larger, more crowded, and filled with new faces, yet the silver-skinned girl never returned. At first, Daniel thought he might see her again. He looked for her whenever he passed through the busy stalls. His eyes wandered over every group of children, every strange alien visitor. But the little, star-eyed girl was nowhere. He asked around, but nobody remembered her. Some merchants claimed they had seen a transport ship leave quickly that night, as if someone important had been taken away. Time has a way of washing memories. For others, she faded into nothing. But Daniel carried her in the quiet corners of his thoughts. Her tiny voice, "Do you mean it?" still echoed when he was alone. Years went by. Daniel grew taller, stronger, his face sharper. His life became ordinary. He worked on repair crews, fixing old colony machines. He laughed with friends. He drank at taverns. He lived. But sometimes, in the silence of night, he remembered the girl with glowing eyes and the strange seriousness in her small face. One evening, while repairing a broken satellite dish on the colony roof, Daniel found himself staring at the stars. They stretched across the sky like endless fireflies. For a long time he wondered if she was out there somewhere growing up, remembering the joke he had spoken. He shook his head and forced a laugh. "She probably forgot me long ago," he whispered. But his chest still ached, as if he hoped she had not. War soon came to the edges of their world. Rumors spread of alien empires clashing, of refugees fleeing from distant systems. Daniel saw families arrive in broken ships, tired and hungry, carrying stories of battles, yet among them, he never saw her. There was one night when he thought he did in the market again years after that first meeting. Daniel spotted a young alien girl with glowing skin rushing past. For a heartbeat, his chest tightened. Could it be her? He called out. But the girl turned, and though her eyes were bright, they were not the same eyes. Not hers. She gave him a quick smile before vanishing into the crowd. Daniel stood frozen, his heart heavy with disappointment. Life moved on. The colony expanded into steel towers and new trade routes. Daniel became known for his skill with machines. People called him dependable, steady, a man who could be trusted. But beneath it all, a part of him stayed haunted. He had told himself again and again that it was only a child's joke, nothing more. But the way she had clutched those words, it was too real, too heavy for him to forget. Sometimes when friends spoke of marriage or starting families, Daniel would laugh. "Me, I once promised an alien girl I'd marry her. Guess I'm already taken." His friends laughed with him, thinking it a silly story. But Daniel never laughed too loudly. He always felt something deeper hiding behind the words. One winter, while traveling beyond the colony for work, Daniel found himself in an old archive station. He searched records more out of boredom than hope, scrolling through names of refugees, missing children, transport logs. He thought maybe, just maybe, he might see her name. But the files were endless, and the girl had never told him who she truly was. After hours of searching, he shut the terminal with a sigh. "You really were just a ghost," he murmured. Still, in the quietest moments, he imagined her. He pictured her as a child, then older, taller, stronger, the way she said she would be. Sometimes he imagined her voice, sometimes her smile. It was foolish, but it made his lonely nights softer. And then, one night, something strange happened. Daniel was walking home through the silent streets when the sky above split with streaks of light. A ship entered orbit, sleek, unfamiliar, and too elegant for a trading vessel. Its engines hummed with a sound that made the ground tremble. People rushed out, pointing, whispering fears of invasion. Daniel stared with wide eyes, something pulling at his chest. He did not know it yet, but the years of waiting, of wondering, of carrying that single memory in his heart were about to end. The little alien girl he had once fed an apple, the girl who had clung to his careless joke as if it were a sacred vow. She was coming back, and the man who had thought it was all forgotten would soon learn how powerful words could be. Words that a child never let go. Words that had guided her through the vanishing years. The night sky over the colony had always been busy. Cargo freighters came and went. Patrol ships blinked across the horizon, and small shuttles dotted the stars like fireflies. But on this night, everything grew silent. A shadow spread across the sky, larger than anything Daniel had ever seen before. The colony alarm sounded. People poured into the streets. Staring upward in fear and awe, a massive starship descended slowly, its silver hull glowing like liquid moonlight. It was not a design anyone recognized, not human, not from the nearby alien trade partners. This ship was something rare, something powerful, and its presence was unsettling. Daniel stood among the crowd, his eyes locked on the vessel. His chest felt tight, as if something deep inside him already knew this was not just another ship. His hands curled into fists as memories flickered, glowing skin, starry eyes, and a promise he had long buried. The ship landed beyond the market field. The ground shook under its weight, dust rose, covering the night lamps in a haze. The colony. Guards rushed forward, weapons ready. People whispered in panic, wondering if it was war. Then the ramp of the ship slowly lowered. A light spilled out, bright and pure. For a long moment, no one appeared. The tension grew so thick that even the children stopped crying. Everyone held their breath. And then she walked out. At first, Daniel thought he was dreaming. The figure was tall, graceful, her silver skin glowing faintly under the colony lights. Her long hair shimmered like strands of starlight. Her eyes, bright and unyielding, scanned the crowd. She wore robes of deep blue embroidered with symbols no one understood, and around her waist was a thin belt of polished metal. The colony gasped. Some people fell to their knees, others backed away. The presence she carried was not of a traveler. It was of someone important, someone untouchable. Daniel's heart thundered. He knew those eyes. He had seen them once, years ago, in the face of a small child clutching an apple. He whispered, under his breath, "It's her." The guards demanded she identify herself. Their voices shook, but she only raised her hand. Her voice rang out clear and strong. "I am not here to harm you." People stared, silent. She stepped forward, her gaze moving across the crowd until it stopped. On him. Daniel froze as her glowing eyes locked onto his. In that instant, the years melted away. He saw her as the little girl again, sitting on the crate, hungry and trembling, asking if he meant his words. But now she was grown, radiant, and every inch of her presence screamed that she had not forgotten. The crowd began to murmur. Some thought she was royalty, others whispered that she was dangerous. Daniel's legs moved before he realized. He stepped out from the line of onlookers. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it echo in his ears. She walked toward him. Every step made the crowd fall silent. As she reached him, she stopped. The glow of her skin reflected in his eyes, and in a voice both soft and commanding, she said, "You kept me waiting." The crowd gasped. Daniel blinked, unable to form words. You're the girl," he whispered. Her lips curved into a small smile, though her eyes shone with something deeper. "Yes, I am the girl you once fed, the girl you promised to marry when she grew strong." She tilted her head, studying him, as if testing whether he was worthy of his own words. "I have returned." Daniel's mind swirled. He had told himself for years that it was just a joke, nothing more. Yet here she stood, living proof that those words had not been forgotten. The promise he thought was dust had become something real, something alive. The guards stepped forward nervously. "What do you want here? Why have you come?" one asked. The alien woman turned to them, her eyes sharp as steel. "I came for him," she said simply, pointing at Daniel. The crowd erupted into whispers. Daniel felt the ground tilt beneath him. His friends stared in shock. Strangers eyed, him with suspicion. But all he could do was stare back at her, his chest burning with a mix of confusion, fear, and something he did not yet understand. Her ship behind her gleamed like a beacon. Her people were hidden inside, waiting, watching. The colony could feel the weight of her power, the danger she carried, yet her gaze never left Daniel. In that moment, Daniel realized the truth. Whatever her life had become, whatever battles she had fought, she had come back for him. And his words, spoken so lightly long ago, had tied them together across the vanishing years. But her return was not simple. The way her eyes flickered with both tenderness and warning told him everything. This was not just about a forgotten promise. There was more, a secret she carried, a storm that followed her, and Daniel's quiet life was about to shatter. The crowd did not move. Every eye stayed fixed on the silver-skinned woman and the human she pointed at. The market square, usually filled with noise, was so silent that even the wind seemed to stop. Daniel felt dozens of eyes burning into him, yet he could not look. Away from her glowing stare, she stepped closer, her movements graceful but heavy with meaning. The faint shimmer of her skin caught the lantern light, and Daniel felt like he was seeing a dream made real. Her voice, calm but firm, carried across the square. "You once gave me your word," she said. "Do you remember?" Daniel's breath caught in his throat. His mouth went dry. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to say no. He wanted to laugh it off as a child's imagination. But the memory returned too clearly. Her small hands clutching an apple. Her trembling voice asking if he meant it, his careless answer. He swallowed hard. "It was a joke," he said, the words weak even to his own ears. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger but in disappointment. "A joke to you," she whispered. "A vow to me." She turned slightly, as if addressing not only Daniel but the entire colony. "Through war and exile, through hunger and fear, I carried those words. They gave me strength when nothing else did." The crowd began to murmur. Some laughed nervously, others stared in awe. A guard whispered to another, "Is she serious?" But neither stepped closer. They too could feel the power in her presence. Daniel shook his head. "I was young. I didn't mean it that way. You were just a child." His voice cracked. He tried to step back, but her gaze held him in place. She moved even closer, now standing only a few feet from him. "And now I am not a child," she said, her voice like quiet thunder. "I am grown, I have returned, and I came to claim what was promised." Daniel's chest tightened. He looked into her shining eyes and saw not only the girl he remembered but also something far more complicated. Behind her beauty was pain, years of struggle, and secrets she had not spoken. He saw strength, yes, but also desperation. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Why hold on to something so small when you could have left it behind?" For the first time, her voice softened. "Because it was not small, not to me." She lowered her gaze briefly, her hair falling like strands of light across her face. "In a world that treated me as nothing, you saw me. You gave me food. You gave me words of kindness when no one else did." She looked back at him, her eyes shining. "That moment kept me alive." The crowd grew restless. Whispers turned into arguments. Some shouted that she was dangerous, that she should leave. Others whispered that perhaps she was royalty, and they were in the presence of greatness. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons but still did not act. Daniel felt trapped. His heart ached, but his mind was torn. He had lived an ordinary life, never expecting to carry the weight of a destiny. Yet here she was, demanding he step into something far bigger than himself. "I can't just," he began. But she lifted her hand, silencing him. Her expression turned hard again, the softness gone. "You do not yet understand," she said. "This is not only about us." Her words sent a chill down his spine. "What do you mean?" he asked. She glanced at the starship behind her, its silver hull gleaming under the night sky. "I returned because I had to," she whispered. "My people are hunted. My enemies will come. And the bond I hold with you is the only shield I have left." The revelation struck him like a blow. The crowd gasped. The woman's eyes burned with both hope and sorrow. "Your promise is no longer just between you and me," she said. "It has become something greater, something that may decide the fate of more than one world." Daniel staggered back, his mind racing. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to say he was just a mechanic, just a man with no part in such things, but deep down he knew her presence here was no accident. His words from years ago had set something in motion, and now the weight of it had returned. The guards finally stepped forward, one raising his weapon. "This is colony territory," the guard barked. "State your business and leave." The alien woman turned her head slowly, her glowing eyes falling on the guard. For a moment her aura flared, a shimmer of light wrapping around her body like armor. The guard froze, sweat breaking across his brow, and lowered his weapon without another word. She looked back at Daniel. You may think you forgot, but promises live longer than memory, she said. And now you must decide if you will honor it. Daniel's legs trembled. His heart raced. The weight of the crowd's stares pressed against him. He wanted to run, but he couldn't move. He wanted to speak, but no words came. In the silence, she leaned closer. Her voice, almost a whisper, meant only for him. I cross stars for you, Daniel. Do not turn away from me now. And with those words, the forgotten promise burned alive once more, threatening to pull him into a destiny far greater than anything he had ever imagined. The colony did not sleep that night. People whispered in the streets. Guards doubled their watch and families locked their doors. All eyes turned toward the massive silver starship resting beyond the walls. It was a visitor no one could ignore. Daniel, however, was not with the rest. He was inside a quiet storage bay, standing face to face with her, the alien woman who had returned after so many years. The girl he once knew had become something extraordinary. Her presence filled the room and her glowing eyes never left him. He rubbed his forehead, struggling to steady his breath. You say my promise is more than a memory, he muttered. But I don't understand. Why now? Why come back after all these years? She did not answer at first. Her gaze moved around the storage bay as if checking for shadows. Only when she was certain they were alone did she speak. Her voice was lower now, carrying weight instead of thunder. Because I carry a secret, she said. One that could destroy me or save us both. Daniel frowned. What kind of secret? Her hand brushed across the thin metal belt at her waist. The small device there shimmered faintly. My people were betrayed, she began. Our empire shattered. Our enemies tore us apart. They hunted us like animals, and in the fire of that war, I was chosen as a vessel. A vessel? Daniel repeated, confused. She nodded slowly. Inside me lies something my enemies desire. A key. A power that once belonged to my ancestors. Something hidden in my bloodline. She looked him straight in the eyes. If they find me, they will use me to enslave worlds. Daniel's chest tightened. The words were heavy, far beyond what he expected. Then why come here? He asked quietly. Why come to me of all people? She stepped closer, her voice softening. Because your promise was not just words, it was an anchor. Her eyes glimmered, reflecting his face. When I was hunted, I remembered you. When I wanted to give up, I remembered you. My vow to return gave me strength, but it is not only memory. Your bond with me protects what I carry. Daniel shook his head. I don't understand. She lifted her hand, placing it gently against his chest. A faint light pulsed from her skin. His heart skipped as warmth spread through him. For a moment, images flashed in his mind, stars burning, battlefields torn apart, ships breaking in flames, and her face standing tall against the storm. He gasped, stepping back. What was that? Her expression was calm but serious. Proof, she whispered. The key inside me can only be unlocked if I break the bond I hold with you. That is why I am hunted. That is why I must stay near you. Daniel's thoughts spun. His hands shook. So, I'm not just some man you remembered, I'm part of this? Yes, she said, her tone steady. You are part of it whether you wish it or not. Silence filled the bay, broken only by the faint hum of her starship outside. Daniel's life, once simple, ordinary, was now tied to something vast. He wanted to scream, to walk away. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw truth. He saw fear hidden beneath her strength, and he saw the girl he once gave food to, clinging to his words as if they were life itself. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet. What happens if they find you? Her gaze hardened. They will kill anyone who stands between us, she said. Your colony will burn, you will burn, that is why I came. I cannot fight this war alone, I need you. Daniel stepped back, his mind racing. I'm no soldier, he said. I fix machines, I patch roofs, I'm not someone who saves worlds. But she reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. And yet you already saved me once, she said firmly. That was enough to change everything. Do not think. So little of yourself, Daniel. Her words struck deep. His throat tightened. He wanted to deny it, but part of him knew she was right. That small act years ago had already shaped both their lives. Outside, the colony alarms suddenly wailed again. The ground trembled slightly. Daniel's eyes widened. What's happening? She turned toward the doors, her face grim. They have found me, she whispered. Daniel's stomach dropped. Who? Her voice was cold as steel now. The ones who destroyed my people, she said. The hunters. They are here. Daniel's heart pounded. His simple world was gone. His forgotten promise had turned into a chain linking him to a storm of war and destiny. And now, with danger already at their gates, he realized there was no turning back. Whatever secret she carried, whatever bond tied them together, it had already drawn enemies to their doorstep, and his choice, whether to run or stand, would decide not only his fate, but the fate of everyone he knew. The colony shook with the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed across the walls, and the sky above glowed with streaks of fire as enemy ships pierced through the clouds. Panic spread like wildfire. Families rushed for shelter, guards scrambled to their posts, and the air filled with shouts of fear. Daniel stood frozen in the storage bay, his breath shallow. His mind screamed at him to run, but his heart refused to move. Beside him, the alien woman stood tall, her glowing skin shimmering brighter than before. Her eyes no longer carried only sorrow, they carried fire. They've come for me, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos outside. And they will not stop until I am theirs. Daniel's chest tightened. What do they want? Her gaze flickered toward the doors as if she could already see the enemy outside. They want what is inside me, the key to control. If they capture me, your world will fall. She turned back to him, her face inches from his. And if you stay with me, they will hunt you too. Daniel swallowed hard, sweat rolling down his neck. He wanted to say no, to walk away, but the memory of her as a little girl, holding that apple like it was her only treasure, burned in his heart. He had saved her once without thinking, and now he faced the same choice again. Before he could answer, an explosion rocked the colony. Dust rained from the ceiling. The ground trembled, and screams echoed through the air. Daniel stumbled, but she caught his arm, her grip firm. Decide, Daniel, she said sharply. Run, or stand with me. His throat tightened, fear twisted inside him. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw something more than desperation. He saw trust. Trust that had lasted across years and stars. He took a shaky breath. I'll stand with you, he whispered. For the first time, her expression softened into relief. She squeezed his hand. Then we fight. The doors burst open, and 3 armored figures stormed in. Their suits were black, their visors glowing red, their weapons hummed. With lethal energy, the sight made Daniel's blood run cold. The alien woman stepped in front of him. Her body glowed brighter, energy rippling through her skin. She raised her hands and a wave of light burst outward, slamming into the intruders. 2 were thrown against the wall, their armor cracking. The third staggered but lifted his weapon, aiming at Daniel. Daniel's heart froze. He had no weapon, no training, nothing but panic. The shot fired and he thought it was over, until she leaped in front of him. Her arm caught the blast, her light absorbing it. She cried out but stood firm, hurling another wave of energy that sent the soldier flying. Daniel stared in shock. You're bleeding, he said, seeing a faint silver glow seeping from her arm. She clenched her jaw. It doesn't matter, she hissed. Stay behind me. But Daniel couldn't just stand still. He grabbed a broken metal pipe from the floor. His hands shook, but when another soldier pushed through the doorway, Daniel swung with all his strength. The pipe cracked against the soldier's helmet, knocking him off balance. The alien woman finished the fight with a blast of light that sent the soldier crashing to the ground. Daniel panted, his chest heaving. The pipe shook in his hands. I can't believe I just did that, he muttered. She looked at him, her eyes burning with approval. You can, she said simply. The battle outside grew louder. Explosions lit the night sky. The colony defenses were failing, and more enemy ships landed on the outskirts. Daniel and the alien woman pushed through the chaos together. She fought with her glowing energy, and he used whatever tools and scraps he could find to defend them through the smoke and fire. Their bond grew sharper. They moved as if guided by the same instinct. She protected him, and he refused to leave her side. Even in the middle of fear, their eyes kept finding each other. At one point, as they ducked behind a shattered wall, Daniel whispered, "Why me? Why do you trust me this much?" She glanced at him, her face streaked with light and blood. "Because you are the only one who never saw me as less," she said. "Even when I was small, forgotten, you gave me something no empire ever did. Hope." Her words hit him harder than any blast. He felt heat rush to his chest, not from fear but from something deeper. He realized that what bound them was no longer just a childhood promise. It had grown into something far greater, something stronger than war. Another explosion shook the ground. Enemy soldiers swarmed the colony streets. The two of them stood together, backs against the broken wall, breathing hard, their future uncertain but their choice clear. "Between love and war," she whispered, her glowing eyes locking with his. "We must choose both." Daniel tightened his grip on the metal pipe, his fear melting into determination. "Then let's fight," he said. And together, under the burning night sky, they stepped back into the storm, side by side, ready to face whatever came. The colony burned under the storm of war. Flames stretched into the sky, and smoke darkened the stars above. Enemy ships circled like predators, dropping soldiers into the streets. Screams and gunfire echoed across the night. Daniel and the alien woman moved together through the chaos. Every step was a fight. Every breath was a gamble. He swung his broken pipe at soldiers that cornered them, while she unleashed waves of light that bent the air itself. The bond between them grew sharper with each clash. They were no longer strangers. They were survival bound into one, but their enemies did not stop. For every soldier they dropped, another came. The colony walls cracked, homes collapsed, and Daniel knew that without something more they would all be lost. They reached the central square where the ground had been torn open by blasts. The great silver starship she had arrived in still stood on the far side, shimmering like a beacon. But dozens of enemy soldiers surrounded it. Their leader stepped forward, taller than the rest, his armor blacker than night. His voice cut through the smoke. "Return the vessel, return the key," he growled, his red visor locked on the woman. "You cannot hide forever, princess." Daniel's breath caught. Princess. The word rang in his mind like a thunderclap. Suddenly her presence made sense, her strength, her importance. She was not only a survivor, she was the last of something far greater. She stood tall despite her wounds, her silver blood streaking, her arm. Her voice rang out, steady and defiant. "You will never have it," she said. "The bond is mine and you cannot break it." The leader's laughter boomed. "Then he will die first." His weapon lifted, aimed straight at Daniel. In that split second, time seemed to freeze. Daniel felt the world narrow to the barrel of the gun pointed at his chest. But before he could move, she stepped in front of him, her arms outstretched. Her body glowed so bright it blinded the square. "No!" she cried. "You will not touch him." The shot fired, but it never reached them. Her light erupted like a shield, swallowing the blast. The air cracked with energy, sending soldiers staggering backward. The leader roared in rage, but Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her close. "You'll burn yourself out," he shouted, her eyes locked on his, glowing with both pain and love. "Then let me," she whispered. "I promised I would return to you, and I will keep it, even if it costs me everything." Daniel's throat tightened. He shook his head violently. "No, you don't have to do this alone. You said the bond protects you." "Then let me protect you too." For the first time, tears shimmered in her starry eyes. "Do you mean it now?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Do you mean the promise you gave me?" Daniel's heart hammered. The memory of the little girl clutching an apple flashed in his mind. The way she had asked, "Do you mean it?" and how he had laughed it off. He felt the weight of years crash down on him, and he finally understood. Yes, he said firmly, his voice shaking with conviction. I mean it. I'll keep my promise, no matter what. The light around her surged as his words sank in. Their bond flared brighter than the fires of the colony. Together they stood, hand in hand, their joined strength burning like a star. The enemy soldiers staggered back, their weapons powerless against the force that rose between them. The leader roared and charged, his black armor cutting through the smoke. Daniel braced himself, raising his pipe, but it was no longer just metal in his hands. The bond between them wrapped around him, filling him with energy. When he swung, the strike blazed with light, smashing into the leader's chest and sending him crashing to the ground. The battlefield fell silent. The remaining soldiers froze. Their courage broken one by one, they fled back to their ships. The colony defenders rallied, pushing the last of the attackers away. The sky cleared as enemy vessels retreated into the stars. Daniel stood panting, his chest heaving, his hand still clasped with hers. Their bodies glowed faintly from the bond. But the danger had passed. The colony was scarred, but alive. She turned to him, her silver hair falling across her face, her lips curved into a soft, trembling smile. You kept your word, she whispered. Daniel's throat burned with emotion. And you kept yours, he said. You came back. For a long moment they simply stood there, the world quiet around them. Her eyes glimmered as she whispered, Between love and war, we chose both, and we won. The colony survivors watched in silence, not daring to interrupt. They saw not only a woman and a man, but something greater, a bond that had defied time, war, and death itself. Daniel squeezed her hand, his voice steady now. This isn't the end, is it? Her gaze lifted to the stars, her smile bittersweet. No, she said softly. It is only the beginning. And as the fires of war cooled and the night sky stretched endless above, Daniel realized that his careless joke had become a vow that reshaped destiny. The promise once forgotten was now fulfilled, and the universe would never be the same.